Hi, this is Zoe Routh, and this is the Zoe Routh Leadership Podcast, where I love to work with CEOs and their teams on their people stuff in leadership. It's always such a joy to discover new insights and new ways of tackling the people stuff. And my guest today is James Bergl. He is Datto's VP of Sales for the Asia Pacific region. Now, Datto is a unicorn. It's an organization that went from startup to $1 billion market value as a private business, not a public one. And James was responsible for setting up the Australian wing of the company and grew it from ground zero to 80 people. And in our conversation today, we explore what worked. How did he go about doing that? What's his philosophy in leadership, and how does he build great culture? And I think what you'll find is James is a genuine, earnest kind of bloke, and he's really interested in people and has some wonderful, valuable insights to offer in terms of his experience. And also listen and watch as he showcases how he goes about learning about himself as a leader and what that's meant for his journey. If you enjoy this podcast, please share. It's one of the ways I can help build the audience and get more great stories like James's out to the world to help make leadership better. So if you like it, please press share. In the meantime, let's do it. James, welcome to the show. I am delighted to have you on the call, and I'm looking forward to this conversation immensely.
Thank you very much, Zoe. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much for having me. I'm excited as well.
We have a lot in common. So just before we hit record, we were sharing our biohacking obsessions and interests and sharing our instruments of torture for mobility. The other thing we have in common is that we ain't from Australia. And the first thing people are going to notice is your accent. Tell us, where are you from?
That's right. So I moved to Australia just shy of 7 years ago now, and I usually get people coming up and say, "What part of England are you from?" So I do have a British accent, but I'm actually from Bermuda. So born and raised in a little island called Bermuda, which is just off the east coast of New York, or actually close to South Carolina. But it's more American there. I then went away to school at boarding school at the age of 13. So I've got the British accent, and then I've got the American twang as well. And after a frothy or two over here, there's the odd Aussie word comes out as well. But a bit of a mongrel.
What is a frothy? Is that a Bermudian, or is that a British expression?
So that was me trying to be a little bit Aussie, but that's apparently a beer. That's like the Aussie term for a beer. You have a frothy.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, that's what someone offered me the other day. That's what I assumed it was, at least. So
There you go. Well, I'm Canadian originally, so what the hell do I know? I'm still learning expressions. I think we were joking about this yesterday in our preview call about how to pronounce water. And me trying to pronounce water comes out very funny, like water. And likewise.
that's what I can't. It's my R's. So when I say water, I sound probably more American. Water. It's the R's I can't pronounce properly, or sound like a farmer from the UK.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of the ones I struggle with as well.
Yeah, okay. Well, being understood and being heard is really important in leadership. How good was that segue?
Perfect. Love it.
So you've had lots of interesting leadership positions and really interesting experiences in terms of building up business. Now you're part of Datto, which I saw was listed as a unicorn, that magical experience. Were you with Datto from the beginning?
I was not with Datto from the beginning of conception. So Datto is an American company headquartered out of Connecticut in the US. I came on board in 2015 as effectively the first hire here in Australia for Datto. So I've had the opportunity to build Datto up from the ground up. But yeah, we do have that unicorn status, which I think is something along the lines of going from $0 to $1 billion valuation from startup. So that's something which does get floated about a little bit.
I think it's as a private company too, right?
That's right, as a private company.
Yeah, right. And so you've headed up the development of Datto in Australia since you hit the ground, basically. And along the way, I'm guessing there have been a few leadership challenges and experiences. As somebody who's been successful in your role, I'm guessing you've been successful in your role. How do you define leadership?
So leadership, to me, is really about getting the most out of people. It's about shining a light on where you're looking to go and coaching and motivating the team around you to get there in the most authentic way they can that achieves results as well. So it's about carving a path. It's helping people to go out there and achieve goals and they probably didn't even think were possible themselves, and really getting them to deliver results that are extraordinary.
And it sounds like you've had extraordinary results in your career pathway. I'm interested in the chosen field of sales. Like, how do you end up in sales?
It's an interesting question. I was just thinking back. So I graduated from university in the UK in 2008, and I was one of the, I guess, the later people to actually go through the application process. I've always been a bit of a last minute guy, as you may pick up from time to time. But I knew at the time I wanted to get into some sort of consultancy role that involved, you know, interactions with people, and perhaps that was sales. And I also wanted to get, you know, paid quite a bit of money as well. So, you know, that was me as a 22, 23-year-old graduate at the time, thinking, what can I do where I can make some good money, to live a good lifestyle, and do something I enjoy. And I didn't know that that was sales, and I didn't know that that was IT sales. And I actually stumbled into a software sales organization. I started my career at a company called SAP, which is a large software firm globally. And that was a fantastic segue for me to get into the IT industry and also into sales as well. So I guess on paper, it looked good. You could go out there, and I definitely am motivated for a challenge. And also at the time, my perspective has probably changed a little bit now, but like the option to, you know, the harder you work, the more money you can make, that appealed to me. Like I still today get a little bit of adrenaline around thinking like there's I can write my own paycheck if I want to. So that was something that I found exciting at the time. And I you know, had a couple of roles in my earlier career where I shifted from being more in a sales associate role and having access to different divisions within SAP to landing myself a role in a company called Autotask. And that was where I really learned to cut my teeth on sales and sort of carved out my sales career. And I kind of went from, I guess I like to say, strength to strength. And I've been in it ever since. And I'm not I guess, in the field as an individual contributor today. I'm leading a team, and I have sales managers that are working my team as well. But I still love being in front of customers. I still love being on the ground and doing sales calls and speaking to customers and helping to do deals and structure conversations, etc. Like, I'm still motivated. That excites me probably more than sitting in the back office doing some of the less customer facing stuff. But I guess that's a little bit of a story in terms of how I got into it.
So I want to pick up on one thing you mentioned near the beginning, which is earlier on, it was motivated by you can cut your own paycheck. The harder you work, the harder you earn. Was that something that you've shifted perspective on, that aspect of sales, or what were you alluding to specifically?
Yeah, it has shifted, because I think when you're at university, you don't have any money, and you think, if I had lots of money, I could buy all of these nice things. And then you go through a phase of, I think what you do is you're looking for, you think those things give you happiness and joy, and they give you sort of instant gratification if you can buy a new toy or a new car or a new shiny object to play with. But after a few years in sales of having success, you make the nice commissions checks, and then you buy the toys and the cars and the holidays, and you get back and you're like, oh, is that it? Like, what else is there out there? What is, like, you're always thinking, what next? What next can I earn? And then I had this realization that actually, like, money is not the main motivator of me, and money is not the main motivator of sales reps either.
It's what? This is radical news for me. What do you mean it's not the main motivator? Tell me more.
So a lot of people think that sales people are sort of coin operated. You know, you put a coin in and you get a result at the backside of it. And we joke about that in the office at times. But, you know, I run a sales team of young, I probably shouldn't say the word young, but certainly youthful, out of university, you know, men and women. And they're extremely driven, extremely smart. But and I did a survey on this, actually. I was doing some own research for a presentation I was doing, and I said, what do you put in terms of the most important aspect of your role in sales? And I think that commission and money came second or third. It's actually the sense of accomplishment. It's a sense of building something that actually was ahead of that. So the money needs to be there, but that is not really the main motivator. And I think if you're a sales manager, a leader, or even a business leader that's looking to motivate salespeople, you know, the money gets you through the door, but you really need to put, and if you want to motivate and lead a team, you need to put, you need to really understand what is going to help them to perform at their best and to drive results. And it's typically, for us, it's career progression. It's about being a part of a team. It's about the autonomy to learn. to go out there and try new things, and in the comfort of knowing that you won't be reprimanded if you mess up. And then, if you do well, then you receive a nice paycheck. But yeah, money is not the most important. And I learned that actually once I'd made money in sales. I bought the things I wanted, and I realized actually for me it's a much bigger realization and goal is to accomplish something meaningful and build something that I can put my stamp on, and really kind of leaves a legacy behind. So that's what motivates me, and I really believe that that's particularly in software and solution sales what motivates a lot of other people as well.
That's a really lovely insight to notice that progression in yourself and to see that in others. It's a big step to go from managing yourself, managing your own agenda and your own results as a sales professional or any kind of professional, to then leading a team. So tell me what your first experience was of jumping in and having a team to lead.
When I moved from London to Sydney, I was with a company called SolarWinds, and my first role for the first 6 to 12 months was what I describe as a player coach. So I had a quota that I had to hit, and I was also responsible for managing and leading the team. And I definitely think there's a difference between management and leadership, but there is a shift, because as a sales rep, you're, in a good way, you're selfish. You're focused on what can I do to achieve my goals or my customers' goals, or achieve the mandate that's set out in front of me. Whereby when you make that shift, it's not about what's in it for me. It's how can I help those around me? How can I help my team to hit their goals and objectives? So you go from, I remember thinking, I've done all of these deals for the team, or supported them, and they're the ones getting paid the commission check, and I'm not. And that's something which you go, oh, hang on, that's not what my role is anymore. And then that's sort of after you spend a little bit more time as in the management and the leadership side, like it doesn't even cross your mind. Like you're just happy if you watch your team win. And be successful. So that was an initial shift from just noticing, it's not about me. I'm not the one that gets recognition. Your role is to promote everyone around you within the organization, make everyone else look good, help make everyone else achieve their goals and objectives. And another interesting piece is, your boss is looking at the success of the business unit, not necessarily the success of individuals. So if your business unit does really well, they come to you and say, thanks for doing a good job. They don't go to your team and say, thanks for doing a good job. So it's that recognition that you've just got to continually focus on taking obstacles out of those around you and putting them in a position to score.
What was the hardest thing that you learned in that transition?
Tactfully, one of the things that I had to do when I was now running and building a team was on hiring salespeople. And I was told, right, go off and hire some sales reps. I didn't have a clue what to look for. There isn't necessarily a one way to do sales, and one profile is the one that you're looking for. So what I learned is I made mistakes in the early days. I listened to what people were telling me. They said, yes, I'm willing to work hard. I love picking up the phone and making cold calls. And I realized that
But do people really say that?
yeah, some people say it.
I
Or some
love
people
cold calls.
Yeah, I love cold calling. Yeah, or some say, look, it's just a part of the job. I'm happy to get in there and do it. No problem at all. And then you hire them, and they're sitting there, not making any cold calls. So one of the things that I learned was really like from bringing people into the organization, was looking at not what they say, but what are their characteristics? What's how are they interacting? And I'm looking for characteristics and potential, as opposed to necessarily like what they just say or what it says on their CV. Like I'll rarely actually look at a CV in detail before I speak to someone, because I really feel that I can get a good read of their capabilities from a skill set perspective, in terms of their characteristics of how they engage in the conversations. So that was a learning point where I made some mistakes early on, going from just being an individual contributor, thinking about what you need to do to beginning to build a team and then lead a team.
What do you think your strengths are in terms of, well, I guess it translates well from sales into team leadership, because sales is all about relationships and leadership is also all about relationships. What do you think are your strong points in that area?
One of the things that I'm super proud of at Datto, where I am now, is the team that we've got in place. One of the things I'm proud of is 80% of the first hires that I hired around 5 years ago are still all within the business, straight out of university, and they've had, this is their 4th, 5th year. as their first job out of university and still with me, and all of them have been promoted within the organization. So one of the things that leads me to think is in terms of like what we do well, or what I potentially do well, is the ability to motivate the team and provide meaning to them. The younger generation, whether it's millennials or the Y generation that's coming through, is it Y or Z?
Z.
It's the
What,
Z.
millennials and Y are the same thing.
Millennials and Y, so Z, the Z generations, the next ones that are coming through, the way they are brought up today, through no fault of their own with technology, is they've got a short attention span. And I put myself in that category as well. So unless you've got something to keep you motivated and inspired, then you're going to probably look for the next thing to move across to do. So that's something that I would say that's one of my strengths, is actually building out that sales team, creating a culture where it very much is like a family. There's a really tight group of teams within the business, and we all get on extremely well. And it's a flat structure. So, when we're in the office, love going out and sitting on the floor with them and having chats. And
why are you sitting on the floor?
Sorry, not actually on the floor, but on the sales floor. That's what we call it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as opposed to in a separate office. So I'll sit on the sales floor with them and just understand like what's working, what's not, how are they getting on. That's something that I think is reasonably unique. Our team is around 80 people in Australia and New Zealand now.
That's pretty big.
Yes, and we've gone from kind of ground zero to sort of 80 people of a satellite office in just under 5 years. So that's something I'm proud of, and I've learned and developed a heck of a lot along the way as well. So I came in as first hire. I was doing everything from cold calling and door knocking and trying to talk technical, which I'm not very good at doing. But I built out the pod around me of skill sets that was required to do all of those aspects and grow the business. And I've learned from being the individual contributor to the sales manager to now I'm the regional vice president. I've got sales managers that are reporting into me. So just really providing that vision and getting the team to buy into that is something which I'm proud of and think I've done well.
I'm curious about this one, James. Like, with going from 0 to 80 people, culture becomes extremely important, because it's easier to manage a culture. Well, maybe I don't even know it's that true, but it seems like a smaller team's easier to manage culture than a bigger one. Were you very intentional and deliberate about growing the culture? And second part to that is, what specific things do you do to embed and nurture the culture?
The culture is absolutely important and a critical part of it. And we hired an HR manager probably 2 years ago now. And what I really liked about his role is he said, I'm not HR, I'm people and culture. And my role is to help people and to drive culture within the business so that we can achieve the business objectives off the back of that. So that fit for Alex, our HR business partner, was really aligned with what we were trying to do. Certainly when we go through a hiring process, we have a framework for what we look for when we're bringing new staff into the business, and culture fit is certainly one of those. We've got a philosophy in the business where we don't tolerate people that think they're bigger than the team. So if anyone thinks they're particularly talented, or anyone actually disrupts the direction of the business or the direction of the team, then we have to make a quick and easy decision to exit them from the business, because there's a risk of them disrupting the team. So it is important. I think we're on the whole, we're pretty good at it. It's impossible to get it right every time when you're hiring, because people are so varied, but I'd say we're very good at hiring on the whole. I believe I probably set the tone for what the culture is, but I also set the expectation that like my managers are the ones that instill that, and then that their teams are also the ones that instill that. So we try to really have it as a DNA throughout the entire organization of what culture means to us, and what the morals of how we operate as a business and a team really are. So that is important, and it's been hard. It's been hard beginning trying to scale it, but it's not been as difficult as I expected. A couple of people challenged us and said, you won't have the same team and culture today that you did, or in 2 to 3 years when you grow and be big. And I take great satisfaction in going back to them and go, hey, have a look right now. And they say, hat off to you, sort of thing. But I think part of that is making sure that you instill and you autonomize your leadership team to to go out and ensure that that culture is fulfilled. So it's not a one person, it sort of intertwines into the entire organization. You've got multiple leaders that are encouraging leadership within culture. So it just trickles down to from the top to the bottom, and then the bottom to the top as well.
How would you describe your culture?
The culture is, it's a little bit of a cliche, but like work hard, play hard is how we are. So the organization, there's 80 employees in our business unit now, roughly. And I would say approximately half of them are in a go-to-market function, so sales, sales engineering, lead generation, and then the other half are more in the supporting functions. So certainly, if I talk to the go-to-market team, we hire people that are smart, people that are driven, people that are coachable, people that are super inquisitive and curious. Like that's a really important characteristic, and also someone that's culture fit. So would I want to hang out with this person in a social environment? Would I like to go for a beer with them? So that's typically what we're looking for. So the folks that come in are energetic. It's a very team orientated business, and we're in this to win it, sort of thing. Like what we want great success, and we want to be number one, and the entire team is sort of in sync with that vision and achieving that, with an underlying tone of integrity. So no one's allowed to step over the line and do something that is untoward or puts us in a position where we can't hand on heart say that we've done the best thing by both our team and the customers.
How do you guys measure success?
From a sales perspective, success is on paper. It's fairly binary. Like you hit your number, your sales target, or you don't. So on one hand, everyone's got a target within their business. That's a factor that some people just don't like, and they have the skill sets for that. I don't want to have a quota. No, every single month I have to hit that quota. So everyone's got a number of a sales target of some sort. For me, it's a bit bigger than that. Success is not just hitting that number. It's on challenging the norm of how business is operated and introducing a new way of doing business.
Oh, that's quite big.
Yeah. Like I like when we've come in, like we feel that we've have changed the way in which vendors like ourselves interact with our channel community, and setting a new pace and a new direction for how business should be done. And for me, being able to go out there and do something a little bit different. And as an example, and it sounds so simple in hindsight, but a lot of people aren't doing this. We sponsor events where we pay some money to get an opportunity to present in front of an audience. And most people think, if I'm going to be presenting in front of an audience, I'm paying for this time, then I'm going to choose what I'm going to present, and I'm going to choose to present on my solution and product so that everyone in that audience knows exactly what my product is, how it works, and why they should buy it. And if you're a sponsorship, you're just helping to subsidize the cost of that event. You're not really the reason that they've come along. And the reality is, a lot of people get up there and they do sales pitches, and no one really likes to be sold to, and no one likes a sales pitch. And this is how many of these organizations work, and it's still the same today. And what we did is I thought about this, and I thought, this kind of sucks. Like, we're going to go in there, pay this money, and as soon as we start talking about our products, they switch off, and you can see the eyes go over and they roll their eyes a little bit at each other. So what we did is we went in there and we threw that out the window, and we said, we want to add some value. We want to talk to you about how you can run your businesses more effectively. We want to talk to you about and again, we're selling to small businesses called managed service providers. So we talk to them about hiring and running a sales team, and about how to build culture within their MSP, etc. So we're still paying to be there. We're paying to play. But what we've done is we've actually shifted the dynamic from us trying to sell our product to us to actually be seen to be a thought leader in that environment and community. And in return, they start listening, and they actually end up coming and wanting to speak to us further and wanting to do business with us, because they see it as a partnership of us actually working together to help them. So that's something which we've done, I think, really successfully in our market. And that's one of the reasons that we've had a lot of success, is because we don't go in there trying to sell. We go in there trying to educate and add value. And off the back of that, they think, you know what, this organization, these people are the sort of people that I'd like to work with. So that's an example of what I think success is. When we've changed the way of people do business. Like, that's pretty cool.
It is very cool. And it seems such a basic thing, well, let's
Yeah,
show up and help them.
yeah,
Let's give instead of take. And Adam Grant wrote a beautiful book about that called Give and Take. And it's the idea that the most successful people are givers. On a side note, also the least successful people are also givers, and they're the ones who give like martyrs. They give till they're dry. So to be a successful giver, you give. You're ambitious for others, and you're also ambitious for yourself, which sounds like you're modeling that beautifully in that whole proponent. And you're thinking about the audience first, as opposed to what can I get out of this, which brilliant. I love it.
yeah. It sounds so simple, but many times I'll go to these IT events and conferences, and I think it's such a shame. Some organizations and tech companies will get up and just do a product pitch, and it's boring. You you engage in a way that you inspire that audience member to walk away going, I will remember that person, that presenter, because I got something valuable from it, and I can take a nugget of that presentation and implement it in my business and actually have a profound impact on my business thanks to that guy. Let me go figure out what he does, because maybe we can do more together.
Yeah.
So
So far we've been having high fives about all of your glorious success. Now, every leader knows that no journey of success is that linear and that straightforward. Can you tell me about a time where you stumbled, where you had a failure, where it was looking grim, and how you got through it?
sure. So there's been a few over the last few years. I guess if I talk about, like, the first one was we went through a merger. So we merged Datto, merged with a company called Autotask, and you may recall at the beginning that was actually where I really learned to cut my teeth on 9 years ago. So full circle, the organizations are together now, just completely coincidentally, which is quite interesting. But that was tough. That was really tough, because you brought together two organizations with different culture, different philosophies. Like, that's a core word, and I think it describes it really nicely. Philosophy of how you operate as a business and what you stand for. We had to go through some organizational changes and adjustments, and it wasn't right for us, or it wasn't right for them. So again, going through that, it was the first time that I'd gone through that as a leader and having to make those sort of decisions, and that was really tough. The other one, which I would say was reasonably tough, is when I had my boss changed. So probably just over a year ago, my boss, who'd been with me since I started at Datto, has moved on from the organization, and him and I had a relationship of how we worked together, and had learned how to work together for a number of years. And my new boss that came in, who's just tremendous. Like, he's really incredible, and I've learned a heck of a lot in the last year from him. But like, how we were working together was very different, and I actually began to question myself, and like, am I doing this the right way? And is the new way in which the business was operating, and I completely get it now, and it completely makes sense, was different. And I struggled. I really struggled, because I was on a particular track, and I needed to move across to a different track in order to drive the business forward. So that was like, I went through sort of ups and downs in that process, and we're in a really good spot now. But it was probably, I guess, a level of maturity from my side, and you have an ego that gets associated to, like, I've always done it this way, so this is what I know, works, and now you're telling me that I've got to change the way in which we operate. And I'm talking extreme there, but it's a lot of the time you have to just learn to swallow your pride, and adapt, and just take a back seat. That's what I did for a couple of months. I just really took a back seat, and relaxed a little bit, and just watched it all play out. And it allowed me to just calm down, and I wouldn't get so emotional about decisions. And 2 months may seem like a long time, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not very long. And I actually was able to come back in, re-adapt my strategy, how that was more aligned with the corporate strategy, and move forward. And I think I've done that successfully now, but it was challenging. So it's I guess, if I summarize those two, it's change within the organization. So change of you bring two teams together, your team doubles overnight, and the other one is the person that you've worked with for a number of years moves on, and you've got to learn to change the way in which you interact with a new leader as well. So those are two that I've struggled with, and I'm happy that I'm still here, and really feel like I've learned a heck of a lot through that journey as well, and would probably be able to acclimatize faster in the future.
I think that what you describe are some really significant experiences that a lot of leaders face during their career, which is the moment when you have your expertise challenged by a different way of being. And it's like, what? What do you mean? I know best. It's always worked this way. Who are
Yeah.
you? Why don't you respect my experience? And it puts us in survival mode, and we can be very difficult to work with when that happens. And it can be very deflating if we don't have authority to work within that. So it is sobering experience.
Yeah.
But the growth that you experienced through that was realizing that, well, I have this way and it's worked, and oh my word, there might be other ways that are also good,
Mm.
and oh my God, could be even better.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And like another impact, just thinking about it, is you've got to remember as the leader, you're the pilot flying the plane.
Mm.
Everyone's when there's a bit of turbulence, you're waiting for the pilot to come on and tell you everything's okay. Everyone's looking at you as the sales leader or the business leader when you're going through turbulence and change. And I knew myself, and like I was struggling to compose myself in a way that I was that calm, collected pilot that made sure everyone feel calm and collected and move on, sort of thing. And I was letting my emotions be seen, and you have to really be strong in that situation, because everyone else in the business is looking to you for, are we safe, are we not, sort of thing. So that was something which I've learned. And some of my team would come and say to me, look, you just need to be cognizant that people are looking up to you, and if they see you a bit wobbly, then that's going to make them wobbly. So I guess that's a lesson learned as well, is really try to maintain that clear head.
How do you like? And that's really hard to do when you're carrying the weight of the organization on your shoulders as point person. How do you reboot? Because that's a lot, can be a lot of pressure. I mean, particularly through something like a pandemic where everything we knew got turned upside down. How do you get rebooted? How do you get refreshed through something like this?
Mm. And I think it's something like this, but it's also, I mean, this is very obvious. We were in a pandemic, and everyone is working from home, and everything's different, and you can identify like what it is. But I think it's also like the impact of, if you're not careful, of what could come of this, is very similar to what happens when you get burnt out. You're on the same track for a long period of time, and you don't have a differentiation between sort of work and home life, where you don't put enough exercise into your life, where you don't have a break from work, and you don't have a divide in terms of like, this is work. At the end of the day, I also need to have other areas of my life that I invest in as well. And I've come close to burning out a couple of times. So I've learned through that history, which I think has enabled me to get through this a little bit easier, that it is really important to have a differentiation. It's difficult to get there, but like, have a differentiation, and detach yourself from work and from the busy life, and also just think like, what's the worst that can happen in this situation? It's very rarely tied to life or death, and if something goes wrong, then you most likely will be able to pick it up in the morning. So one thing is just appreciating that it's not that bad, and go for a walk. I'm really lucky. I live in Bondi Beach, so I go for walks to do the coastal walk. I was out for a swim this morning and yesterday, and I really try every single day to get out and do some sort of exercise. Not necessarily breaking a sweat, but I like to go for a walk, a swim, grab a coffee, and also look at the bright side of the situation. I guess it's not ideal. I miss the team and that sort of thing, but I'm not commuting, so that's a benefit of this situation. I have that 2 hours a day where I typically am getting ready and commuting to invest in myself, either cooking or sports of some sort. And for me, it's about like having different areas of your life that you can achieve something, whether it's a sport, a new skill, a musical instrument. Like I'm cooking at the moment, doing a different cuisine every single week, and it's great.
What's the theme this week?
This week was Spain, and we did tapas and paella last night.
Very nice.
So I'd never cooked it before, so I've got a new skill under, and I've got my documentation of all my menus that I can go back to, and all of the ingredients that you buy something and you never use it again. Now I can I can go back and repeat them. But I think that's important, is to make sure that you've got those different areas of your life that you can run in parallel to your work, and make sure that you're staying calm and collected. And then just on the other side, I know we had a brief chat about biohacking. I'm a believer in meditation as well. I think that helps you to stay calm and collected and have a clear head, and just looking at ways in which you can invest in your mental health as well. It's super important. And I think that there's such a blend in terms of work and life that it's difficult to do that. So really just being cognizant that you need to put measures in place to protect yourself.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's hopefully a little bit of a summary for you.
Oh, that's great. I'm curious about how you go about developing your leadership thinking. Do you read a lot? Do you listen to podcasts? Is it something that you actively pursue, or is it through experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I do pursue it. So multiple. So the ones that you mentioned above, yeah, I listen to a number of podcasts. So Tim Ferriss and Joe Rogan are two ones which I listen to, and I've obviously got yours now as well, which I've
Which is the best one, of course.
it's the best one. That's favorites. That's front in mind when I open up Spotify every day now. So yes, I will buy a good book and read it. I like some of the business development books and a lot of the facts where I feel like I'm learning something. So I do
What's
that.
what's a recent one? Sorry to interrupt. I'm curious now. Like, I love a good book recommendation. Is there one that sort of stands out for you that's like, yeah, that was ace book?
I've read it a couple of times now, but one of my favorite books, which I keep coming back to, and it helps to solidify like my beliefs on like running my team, is the book Legacy by James Kerr, which is the leadership book, which he talks about how how the All Blacks have successfully built not just a team, but really an empire. And it talks about the core kind of rules and morals that they've got in that team, which help them to drive forward. So things like sweep the shed. Everyone's got to sweep the shed at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if you're the most highly paid captain in the world. You've still got to go there. No one's bigger than the team. Follow the arrowhead. So there's a number of rules that I like in kind of my leadership style too in reading that book. And then there's another book. There's a development group called EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, which a number of our partners are engaged with at the moment, and it's a consulting engagement. But there's a book that they've written called Traction, and that's a really good book for helping to put a framework and a model in place to get your entire leadership team working in unity to drive results as well. So there's some really good tips in that book. It's called Traction.
Is that publicly available?
Yeah, it's publicly available.
Okay.
It's on Amazon, and I got some really good tips from that as well. And then also, like, I've been fortunate myself, and I've had my new boss Sanjay, who is just an incredible leader, has signed off on an executive coach for me as well. So every month or so, I have a sit down with an hour with an exec coach, and we just talk and brainstorm. And he's just provided me with a business strategy framework tool called Hoshin, HOSHIN, which I am in the process of designing and our revised business strategy plan for the rest of 2020, and it's a really good framework. So again, there's multiple ways. Like, I love trying to get better, and business and sales is a little bit like golf, that you can always hit the ball closer to the hole. So just keep practicing and looking in different areas to develop. But yeah, I really appreciate the time I have with my coach now. He's helped just giving me a couple of nuggets in terms of just thinking of how to do things as well.
That's awesome. I don't think leadership is like golf at all. Like, golf is like emotional torture. Oh my God.
Yeah, well, maybe sales is a bit like golf. Like, you can always do better. You can always sell more. You can always lower your score in golf, sort of thing. You can always get a better score on the quota board. But yeah, maybe a few more dimensions in leadership.
I think golf and I think tantrum. So
I've seen tantrums in sales as well. So
there you go.
yeah.
James, this has been awesome. I've really enjoyed our conversation and getting an insight into your world and how you go about building an enterprise in a whole new country. That's amazing. So thanks for sharing.
No, thank you very much. It's been great. Really appreciate the time, Zoe.
Hey, that was a fun interview. I really enjoyed James's company and his insights about his experience. What I found in him is a like-minded peep, somebody who's interested in learning and growing and developing as a leader and is committed to helping others succeed. And those are the best kind of leaders, those who are curious and compassionate and earnest in what they're attempting to do and are all people-oriented. I loved it. And if you loved it too, please share. I'd love to help more people discover great stories like James's. In the meantime, live well, lead well.